Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of this timing system from scratch series. So, today we have reached part 3 of this series, and before we start off with anything new, let's have a quick recap of what we did in the last two parts. So, in the first part, I made a stopwatch timer, then in part 2 I changed it to a timer like this. Well, actually in part 1 already made the trigger thing work. In part 2 we improved some issues the first script had from part 1, namely the timing display here, and the timing board is something that we also added in the second episode. So I'm going to complete a lap now. As you can see, I also receive notifications, or a notification, it's only one. And let me do another lap to display that our timer also keeps track of the best lap time we managed to set. So there we go, 13.596. Let's do one more lap to demonstrate that we can also go slower than our best lap time, which would mean that our best lap time would remain the same. So, oh, that's still a faster lap time. I was hoping to time it right. But anyway, meanwhile, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen in this part of this series, in the third part. So, to start things off, there's an issue with the timing board. You don't see it, but maybe, well, actually, that's the thing, you don't see it, and that is that we are missing a number 1 spot. Now, we don't know who is in first and who is in second. Also, you can scroll down while there's only one player on the timer. Also, would like to change that. Okay. And also, what I want to do this season is make it so, like that public timing system I have right now, that you can press or hold a key and get to see the timing sheet on your screen as well. So, first things first, our timing board doesn't sort yet, actually. If player 1 would join the server, I would be the first one to join the server, and I set a 50-second lap time, and then player 2 would join and set a 40-second lap time. My time would still be on top because I'm the first player that joined. The time board doesn't actually sort that yet, and that's what we are going to do now. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make another, actually let me do it in here. I am going to extend this module. I'm going to rename this module to something else. Let's call it timing module, and then make sure to change the name of the module both in the server script as well as in the timer script. We don't need the speed script. That script is irrelevant for what we want to do. So we're going to change that. If you remember from last episode, I made this module script that allows, let me zoom in for you. I made this module script because I wanted to use a function both in the server script as well in the timer script, and I could have copy and pasted the function here and here as well, but the issue is if you want to change that function in the future, you have to edit at 2 points, and that's why I created this here. So you only have to edit in one specific point. And now again, I am going to make a function that is going to be used, or that may be used, because I can also choose not to. I just thought of another way I can do it, and that's the sorting algorithm of the timing sheet. So let's start off by calling giving the function a name, sort times. We're going to call it sort times, and we're going to give it one variable named times, and the times variable is going to be the same. It's going to be this one here. And if you followed last time, the last two parts, namely the first part, you will probably know what this here does, and we want to duplicate it to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing in our server script, and I'm going to add a function, and I'm also going to call sort times. And this one is not going to have a parameter value because I am just going to write a return function, and I'm going to return I didn't call model converter actually, dot or colon sort times and then times. So what I'm doing here is I am passing this times value to here. So now we can work from here. What I want to do with this function is I want to return a sorted times list. So if you know a little bit about scripting, then you might know it's a bit different here. This is a bit misleading, but it actually is more like this. It is a table that doesn't have a first number, second item, third item. No, it has items based on keys. Every item in the times table has a key, and the key in this case is the username. But we want to change it so it has numbers instead of usernames. So what I'm going to do is I am going to write a sorting algorithm that will sort our timing system for highest to from the fastest time to the slowest time. I'm actually going to try to do this more specific, efficient way, and that is by I have to look this up quickly. By using a built-in function from ROBLOX. Okay. I'm not sure if I can actually. I'm going to try this on the fly. I'm not sure if you can pass through a table that doesn't have numbers and then return a sorted list. Well, actually, I am first going to make a converter keys to indexes. I'm a bit all over the place right now. Let's not call it table, list. I'm going to call it list. So what I want to do here is I first want to change our table that consists of keys to a table that we can sort. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to do a new table, or let's call it output because this is what we're eventually going to return from this function, is an empty table. And what I want to do is I want to take every item inside our list. So I'm going to write for empty item in pairs list 2. Actually, I'm going to need this name because if you remember from last time, the first parameter here, name, is the name of, or the key of our table, which is the player name. So we need to keep this here. And what we now need to do is I am going to add, actually I need to add an index value, which is going to be 1 by default, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that our output, our new table, will be filled with the contents from the old table. So what I'm going to do is I am going to actually do some rewriting, and that will be done by writing including the player name itself. So name is going to be, actually let me change it to player equals name. Last lap, need to maintain the same order as I did last time, and the same names preferably. Last time equals item last time, and then best time equals item best time. Okay, cool. So now what I'm doing is I'm converting, this is our converter that converts our list that consists of keys, which we can't sort properly, to something that we can actually sort. So What I'm now going to do is I'm going to return our output, which should be our fancy new list. And now we move on to our sorting algorithm, and we can simply do that by writing. So we're going to also call this output, which will be our sorted list. Actually, to make things more clear, I will call this sorted list. And what I'm going to write here is table.sort. Actually, I don't think I need, this is void, so actually I need to remove this because this changes the times variable itself. It doesn't use the times variable, it also changes the times variable. If you want to learn more about tables and such, I'll post a link in the chat right now, which is the ROBLOX developer page that I am using as a reference. And then our table sort takes a second argument as well, which should be, okay, let me see an example of table sort actually, because I forgot how to do this. Because we want to be able to refer to yes, we want to add another function. This will be the final function though. And our final function will be comparing two values within a table. So faster than, which is going to consist of two variables, namely x and y, which are two separate times within the sheet, and we want to return true if we want to make sure to return true if x is smaller than y, or specifically the time within x, the fastest time within x, is smaller than the other time we're comparing. So if the fastest lap time of player 1 is better than the fastest lap time of player 2, then this will be true. But we need to add an exception here, because if the best lap time of y happens to be 0, which means it doesn't have a faster lap time, then it will return x as well. And we also want to make sure that, actually let me put it this way, I need to put it before the or. We also want to add, want to make sure that our best lap time is bigger than 0, because otherwise we can discount it as well. And let's make sure that we make this smaller or equal than 0 in case we are using, in case we decide to use negative values for some reason. Okay, so what this line should do is x is better than y if the lap time is lower, x's lap time is lower than y's lap time, and if x lap time is actually higher than 0, which means that x does have a best lap time, or if y doesn't have a lap time, which in that case x would be the faster lap time. In this case we can add the table sort. We can complete our table sort function by referring to our faster than function, and then we should be able to return our sorted times sheet, which actually I realize I forgot to do one thing, and that is to first convert our original times table to our indexes type table. It's a bit confusing if you don't understand programming. This section is a bit difficult. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to first sort our times, or actually make this output by converting our times table to the desired table we want, and then take our output and modify it to sort it to the right order, and then return that function. So after we've done that, we can go back to our timer server script, and before we display our lap times, I am going to sort our times. So local sorted times equals sort times, which is going to return our sorted lap times in order. And now what's going to happen is this thing can remain the same. What we can do here is this has to become position, and I have to change this to item player. Also change this to item player. Okay, so let me think for a second here. We also need to change our frame because we don't have a positioning frame. So we need to go in here. This should be our... No, this is not our timekeeper. We need to go to boards, timing GUI, times, and then make our template visible for a little bit, and then move our player name. Let's move it 50. Actually, let's do 70. So make this 80. Then I am going to make this thing a little bit smaller. Make it 90. That's our name becomes, which means we have less room for our normal laptop. I'll fix this in a moment. Let's actually make this 0.6 to compensate for that. Yeah, 0.6 will do. And then make this 0.2, make this a bit smaller, and this to 0.2. Shift this to 0.8, and shift this to 0.5, 0.6 actually. And then what we want to do is add another text, our next text label, and then move that text label all the way to the left. Then make it smaller. Let's make the size of that 50 or 60. So that's the wrong side. We need to change this. Actually, 50 is too small. Make it 70. That's much better. And then I will change the text to 1 by default and center that as well. And make it a bit, and I think we can afford to make it a bit larger than it is right now. There we go. Also, if we want to be a bit stylish, I guess we can make this visible somewhat. Let's do 1.4, and let's make this text black, not entirely black. Let's do 17, that should be good. And also let's get rid of that outline. Actually, the outline doesn't look that bad, to be fair. Let me think. Okay. Should be black. And then how about 3? I guess it works, but the thing is, this thing is not entirely centered. Let's forget about the outline. I think this looks fine in itself. And then if we duplicate this, we get more times. Let's make this invisible again. Let's go back to our script over here. Let's add another line. Let's do it down here, called frame.position, and then .text, which is referring to our new text table that we just made. And then let's make the text position, because this position here is going to count from 1. Actually, which is right now 0. Let's remove this position because I forgot we had an existing one. This has to be position -1. And I want to get rid of this as well because we don't need this new position variable is going to automatically count upwards from 0 to or from 1 to however many items we've got. Okay, now we should be done, although, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if I've done the sorting algorithm right. We will find out shortly. Our timing system is not appearing, which isn't a good sign, and that is because I've got an error. So let's check that out, shall we? Item player does not exist, apparently. What did I do? Output should exist. It is sorting, right? Okay, let's run through this again because I'm not sure why this problem exactly is happening. Okay, so what do we do first? We sort our times, so we call the function we made in our module script sort times, then output keys to indexes. This should be, I actually need to add this here. I don't think that's the main problem of our script, but this certainly plays a role in our script not entirely working. So we make a new output. Let's do a quick test. Let's try to print our name, which isn't called name, it's actually called player. My bad. Then it should work. So if I were to test again, what happens? What happens? It should work correctly. Yeah, it does return my name here correctly. But I'm not sure why it actually isn't working, because it returns the output. And we can tell this code's being run through because otherwise it wouldn't have printed my name, which I added here. So return the output, we go back here, we sort our system. Let's again do another check here. So print, let's do print output 1 player. Return the output, so it's going to return here. Then we go through here, we should be back here. And oh, I see. I forgot to change this. I think that's our issue. I forgot to change times, which is this table, which doesn't have a name tag, of course, player tag, or player key more specifically. But yeah, I forgot to change times to sorted time, so it wasn't actually calling this, it was calling this, which wasn't exactly the plan. So I'm now going to test again. And as you can see, my name will show there that I am in first indeed. And I think I'm also going to test this with a second player in a moment as well, but I'll have to turn the screen black on stream for a brief moment so I can set that up. As you can see, it is working. It shows that I just managed to set a lap time, which is good. Also, before we actually move on, I want to do another small styling thing. I want to make this thing a little bit smaller than it currently is. So let's make this -4. -4, this, I think this is fine. Then make this 2. There we go. And now if I were to test again. Actually, let me do a, I need to make this invisible first. Actually, let me set up a local player test. So I have to, so I'm turning my screen black for a second while I'm setting that up. Let's do 2 players, there we go. And zoom out so I can do the testing thing. Okay, now I can continue again. Okay, so I've got two very nice characters here. And now what I'm going to do is, you can see right now the player 2 has been put in first, with player 1 in second place. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to do a lap of this course. And what should happen is my player 2 should be on top of player 1. So when I cross the line, we see player 2 is indeed on top of player 1. If we go to player 1 and we are going, and when we beat player 2's time, then it should show that player 2 is on top. Or player 1, I should say. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Now if I go back to player 2, I'm going to restart my lap by touching that part. I'm going to touch the second part. And walk over to the third part, right here. And then back to starting line. And I did not manage to beat my previous best. So let's try to do that one more time. Okay, then walk through here. Then work with through here and then cross the line. We still didn't beat our lap time. Let's give it one more try before I give up. That's going to cost us a little bit of time. I really speed ran it with player previously, and now we are surely going to beat our time. We just said, yeah, we beat our time, didn't we? Yeah. So as you can see, the sorting algorithm now works, and it shows nicely that player 2 is in first and player 1 is in second. Beautiful. Okay, now we can go back to here. And by the way, if you want to test with 2 players without actually needing a friend, you can go to test up here, select how many players you want to test with, set up the local server, and then press start. Okay, and now one more thing I want to do before I move on to making a local version of the timing board is I want to get rid of this disgusting thing that's called the scrolling bar, because we only have 2 players, we don't have to scroll down. So what I am going to do is I am going to head to our, let's see, where do we want to make the change happen? I want to do it here. So depending on how many items we've got, we want to make sure that we only display as many times as required. So I am going to lap times frame. I want to eventually revert to that. And I want to change the canvas size of that thing to 0, 0. This is the width, which doesn't matter in our case. And then 0, and then we can't use position because we are outside the for loop. So I have to refer to take all the items sort times half. So if we have 1 item, our length will be actually I have to do this. Frame, it doesn't recognize frame anymore because I'm using the wrong, it is times frame, that's what I need to use, not frame. So what I do here, what this means is it counts how many items are in our sorted times variable, which in this case, if I am on my own, will be 1, and if we are with 2 players, we will be with 2 people. Okay. And as you can see, our scrolly thing is gone because we don't need it. We are good now. Okay, so that is our board sorted out. And now what I want to do is I want to also make a board for the local player. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy, and I am simply going to first of all duplicate the timer GUI and add it in here. I'm going to make UI skill 1, so if you're mobile, I'm sorry that you won't be able to see this thing very well. And what I'm going to do is I am going to copy this frame, put it here, which will cover most of our screens, which is not quite what we want. or we can change that. Let's make this position 1.5 and then minus 300. This won't be mobile supported, by the way, so if you want to make this work for mobile, you have to make some tweaks of your own. Then I want this to be 500 and this minus 200, which will be this. Then the size will be 600 pixels by 400 pixels, which should look like this, alright. Then what I want to do is I want to make this black, and I want to make this less transparent, like so. This looks fine. Okay. We can probably make it look a bit nicer than this, but I'm going to keep it this way for simplicity. So I am going to go down here and I am going to add another, going to make an easy reference to our lap times frame. So I'm going to call it times frame equals script.parent dot lap times, which will refer to this over here. Then what I want to do is I want to create a function. Let's do it. I guess we can do it here. So function display times, and then I want to include sorted times here. Or let's just call it times, our little list. And then let's do the stuff required to display a timer on here as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the server and I am going to create a new set lap time event, which I'm going to call in this case the show lap time event. So I'm going to create a new remote event. If you watched the last episode, you hopefully know what this is. Otherwise, if you don't know, I recommend watching the previous streams. Or I can briefly explain this. These things, if you remember, are little tunnels which you use to communicate between a local script and a server script. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this the show laps event. And then what I'm going to do is when we display our lap time, so when we update our board on the server side, what I want to do is I also want to let the local players do some work as well, the local script. We also want to make sure that our times are sent to our local players. And what I'm going to do now, I was talking in previous episodes about that copy pasting is bad practice, but this time I want to copy and paste because, and where were we working previously? I don't think I've added an script actually yet. Let's do that now. So let's call this the show laps event equals replicate storage wait for child show laps event. So we want to look for this tunnel we just created in the server script. And what we want to do is we want to go all the way down here to our place where we have all our triggers and show laps event on client event, connect to our display or show times function, and we're going to go up here and I'm going to add a function called show times and then give it a variable, namely times, pretty sure I just made a function in here. I guess not, but that's fine. Now I'm going to do some copy and pasting. The reason why I'm doing that is because maybe you want the local interface to look different than your board, and it's hard to make it work if and you can't use the same code if you want to have a local board and to look different than from the workspace one that we have on workspace. So what I'm going to do is I am going to look for what I just changed, and I just realized that I've been editing in the wrong script. So what script am I working in right now? I'm working in this script, display times, that's fine. And I want to get rid of this. It's a bit confusing to be working in two scripts that are both called the exact same. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of this, put it in here, the right script, then get rid of this script. Now show times, display times is what we called it. There we go. Excellent. If anyone has got any questions about this stream right now, feel free to ask in the chat, then I'll have a look at those in a moment. So what I'm going to do in this function is I'm going to edit a thing or two. I am going to times frame is still going to refer to lap times here. This should be fine. This should be fine as well. Then I changed, if you noticed, the sorted times to times, because I'm now referring to this here, which should be the same as sorted times in here, because we are sending this data to our local player. Okay, I think we are done now. I think we should be able, I'm going to keep this visible just to show you what's going to happen. If I were to play now, then I think everything should work as expected. Yes, we now have our, I've got two of these things now. That's not exactly what I wanted, and I know why, because I forgot to remove this timing UI and place it back here. Then hit play again. Will this be non-vision lag compatible? I'm not sure actually. This script has a lot of similar logic to the timing system 3. I would guess if my current public timing system is not compatible with non-vision lag cars, then I doubt this one will, to be honest. But I'm going to change that maybe for next part, where I'm actually going to change some of the timing system. Where I'm actually going to change the way times are being calculated. I'm going to try to make it from the server side instead of from the player side. But as you can see, we've got our board here, which does update as well, even though I think compared to this here, I find the text here a little bit too big, and that's the reason why I want to have code in here as well as in our timer script. So what I want to do is I want to make the template frame, which is here, I want to make that a little bit smaller. I want to make it 30, and hope, actually let me once again remove this, place it in starter GUI so I can see what I'm actually doing. So we're going to make this visible for a moment. Yeah, this looks weird, but don't worry. Let's not worry too much about that, because I'm going to fix it right now. Let's make this 30. I'm going to make this 20. 22. I think that should be fine. Let's actually move this a little bit away from the side. I'm going to give it position 2, so it's going to look like this. Then what I want to do with the stupidly long name, I want to move it, shift it to the left as well. Let's do 45 and make the text a lot smaller. Let's do 20. Actually, let's make this 50 instead of 45, because otherwise I think it's a little bit too cramped. Then these two can remain the same, but I'm going to make this a little bit longer. Extend it a little bit further. Let's do 60 instead of 90. And what I want to do with these two things is make the text here smaller as well. Let's change it to 2000. If you're mobile, you're going to struggle a little bit to see it properly. No, this isn't going to work. So if you're mobile, you probably need a good phone in order to see this. I'm sorry for that. But let's put our timer GUI back here. Let's hit play again. I forgot to, by the way, make the template frame invisible, which means we get something like this, which is not what we want. So let's go to the template, make sure to make that invisible, then hit play again. And I forgot one more thing, actually. I'm going a little bit too fast here. I'm sorry for that. And that is, since I changed the height of our template frame to 30, I want to change it here as well. So I'm going to make this 30 as well, because otherwise everything is going to be too spread out if there are multiple people in game. Then we still got this thing visible. I'm going to do one quick lap to show you what's going on. We still got those print things down here, which I'm going to remove in a second. But there we go. We just managed to set a lap time, and it is showing up here. Then hit stop. Then what I want to do is make lap times invisible. And what I'm going to do now is I am first of all going to add another function. We're going to call show timing board. Which I'm actually going to add a new variable called timing board visible. Or yeah, board visible is fine, and at the time it is not visible right now. So with this value, I basically want to check if our board is visible or not. I'm also going to keep this here because actually I'm going to keep this empty for now. I want to make sure that this will show or hide our timing board. And what I'm first going to do is I am going to go call the input servers. Actually, I'm going to go up here again, because now what I want to do is I want to show the timing system every time someone presses the Q key on their keyboard. So what I'm going to write here is I am going to call the input servers of ROBLOX. So game get servers input, or user input servers it's actually called. Then we move all the way down here, input servers dot input. Let's do let me think for a second here. Let's do input changed. Yes, let's go with that. Actually, I need input began connect handle input, because I want to create a separate function to handle input. Let's do the same for input changed and input ended. And then we go back to the top of, or near the top of our screen at least, and I want to add a function called handle input. And then we have input, and then our second variable, we don't need it, because if we go to the developer page, actually comes with two variables when you call or when you trigger the input changed or the input began or input end events. You get two variables. The first variable, I'm now grabbing this from the ROBLOX dev page. I'll post a link in the chat in a moment. But input event. So what happens if you triggers input change, input began or input ended? Our first variable, which we can see here, is called input, and what it does is it contains information about the player's input, which you will be able to see in a moment. And the second variable here, which I'm going to leave empty because we don't need it, is called game processed event, which I'm not going to explain right now because I am going to post a link here so you can read about it yourself in free time, but we don't need it, so we only care about this thing here. So what I first want to do is I want to check if put dot the input type, and I need to get this right because ROBLOX is certainly not helping me. So input.user input type equals enum dot user input type dot keyboard. So we want to make sure we're dealing with a keyboard. Actually, we don't need this. User input state's what we need. Sorry. Enum dot user input state. Enum is kind of a library of all types of variables, variable values. Input state dot begin. So if someone pressed down a button, then this will return true. Then what we want to do in here is check if input dot keycode keycode, I guess, equals put keycode dots and then Q in this case. So that means if we press Q, then if we press Q down, then we want to call our show timing board and then call show, or actually pass through because in this case we want to show our timing board. Else if, let's do some copy and pasting right now, else if we are dealing with an end of an input state, so if we are releasing a key, then we want to check if this may be a little bit extensive writing, but the reason I write like this is because so if you want to extend this script, you can do that pretty easily. So once again, if we are dealing with keycode Q, we want to show timing board, except this time I want it to become invisible, or I want it to hide. So what I want to do is if show then timing frame, or what did we call our let's see, what did we call our oh, times frame, that's what we called it, our timing board. So times frame dot visible equals true, and else, so if show equals false, then what I want to do is I want to make this false. And you may be wondering, what is this thing for? We're going to use that a little bit later because I actually want to make a little animation from the timing board. I want to make it an animation itself just popping up, but as you can see, you just have to believe me that I am pressing and releasing Q, and that's when I hold or release Q that it shows me the timing board in here. Alright, there we go. is our timing board, our big boy timing board up here and also here. We hit stop, and now what I want to do is, right now if I press Q it pops up instantly out of nowhere. What I want to do instead is I want to make it a really slick animation. So what I want to do is I want this thing to be outside our screens if we are not making use of it. Let's do -1. This is to make sure that it's always going to be outside of our screen. So, and then we want to shift it 1.5 if it comes on our screen, and we want to remove it if we want to get rid of it again. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go here, and this is going to be a bit complicated. This is going to be a bit tricky. I'm going to keep the true and false things here. Let's actually do -0.5, that will do, and it's going to be easy to calculate with, because we're going to have to do some maths in a moment. So what I want to do is I want to check if board remains visible. So if we have so while the animation is going on, we haven't decided yet that we don't want the thing to be visible, our timing board. And I need to add a second condition to this, while board visible and times frame dot position dot x dot scale is smaller than 0.5. We want to apply a certain animation. Want x to be 0 by default. Actually, let's do 1, because you will soon see what I'm about to do. I also want to make sure that board visible equals true, and we also want board visible to become false once we decide to not have our board visible anymore. Okay, so now we have to do some maths here, because I want to make this board swipe from the left in our screen and then make a smooth animation. So what I am going to do is I'm first going to do it a relatively simple one, and then I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated. This part of the stream is not going to be that much about the timing system itself, but about make a nice animation, just like an extra thing. So if you're only here for really how to make a timing system, you can leave if you want to, and if you are interested in scripting in general, I suggest you stick around, because I'm going to show you a nice scripting trick in a moment. So we got our X, right? What we then want to do is I want to also call the run servers, local run servers, game get servers, run servers. Yes, we're going all out here. You'll see what the run service is going to do for us in a moment. We need to go back to where we were working. But I'm going to add this thing here, which is going to trigger every time a new frame gets updated. So this means if you have a computer that runs 60 frames per second, this means that whatever code I put in here, it's going to be executed 60 times a second. So this is going to match your FPS. And this should give us a really smooth animation once we apply everything that we need to apply. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go with X. Let's do X. equals 0 minus the current position of our, let's do this here actually, dot scale, and then x equals x plus, and how fast do we want to make this animation? Not that fast. How long? Let's do half. I think half a second is too low. Let's do 0.25 seconds maybe, or 0.3. Then how many times do we have to, if our time executes every one in 60 seconds, and we want to go down to, okay, I have to think for a second here, because if I were to do 0.1, it would take 10 frames, which is 1/6 of a second. 2/6. What I want to do is do this 0.5, and I also want to make sure that x doesn't become higher than 0.5, our intended value. And then what I'm going to do here is also apply the x, our new x position, to our balls frame. So we're going to go here, and I wish I could do this, but this is not going to work because Roblox doesn't support this particular trick, because this is a value that you can only read from, not write to. So if I want to write to this, I have to do this thing again with the UDIM2 thing and everything. And I want x to be, x, comma, minus 300, and then the second part I want to be the same as it is right now. Yes. Then what I then want to do is, if I want to get rid of our system, there's some copy and pasting, but I have to change a few things here. Is once again, I want to take the scale, but I want to change this to, while bold is not visible, first of all, and while it isn't back in our original minus 0.5 position, and also want to move this thing because we want to actually be able to see our frame move outside our screen. So I'm going to only make the frame invisible once it is outside of our screen, or when it's done with its animation. Then what I want to do is I want to apply this here. I want to change this to a math.max, then -1, which means the minimal, essentially means the minimal value is minus 0.5 and can't be lower than this. Okay, I think we should be done now. Our show timing ball should get triggered. Okay, let's actually test this out and see what happens. There we go. It isn't that smooth. I want to improve it this stream, nothing. But as you can see, if I hold Q, this isn't right. Oh, there we go. It's back. Why isn't it showing anymore? For at least for a while. I know what's going on. Why it's sometimes not working if I press Q twice. Let's see. Why doesn't it do exactly what I want? Bold visible. Oh wait. If not bold visible, then I want to make it invisible, and I also want the opposite. Actually, yeah, this section is fine. So I think this now it's going to work. Yeah, this is good. I can keep swapping it in and out. Now I actually want to change a few things. So instead of x being whatever the bold time machine. Actually, let's do this, and then times plus 0.5, so which means x is going to be a number between 0 and 1, except that I want to play the Uno reverse card and do 0.5 minus this. So this is going to be go from 1 to 0. Our default state is going to be 1 if it's outside our screen, and x should be 0 once our thing is on our screen. And then I want to change this to x while x is okay. We want to go to a value 0. So while x is larger than 0, x is going to remain the same. Wait, no, I want to subtract it. I want to make sure that x is eventually 0. I also want to do the opposite thing here. Let's do that in advance, but we'll get to that in a second. Then I want x to be, because it is okay, when x is 0, it should be at 0.5, the frame I'm talking about, and if x is 1, then it should be outside of the frame. So I'm going to do 0.5 minus x, but then I'm going to do x squared, and then this should create a neat animation in a moment, because x squared is still going to be 1. What's going to happen now is when x is 0, it's going to progress slower, and once it approaches 1, it's going to go out faster. So it's going to go from, in this case, what I want from fast to slow, it's actually going to break and not instantly go from very fast to a standstill. I hope you get what I mean with that. It's a little bit hard to explain perhaps, but just bear with me. And what I want to do here is I want to make this plus x squared. Wait, this should become, while x is smaller than 1 when we make it invisible. Yeah, this has to be the same. Yeah, there we go. Okay. It should also be the same as up here. Okay, I think we should be good. Let's try it out if our animation works. It should make for a smoother animation than we had before. Yeah, look at this. My game runs at 60 FPS, but as you can see, it comes in very smooth. And then this is a very slick and smooth animation, as you can see here. I can make it a little bit slower, and I can simply do that. You can, if you want to change how fast this thing is going, you can. Let me actually make quick fade speed equals 0.5. What I want to do here, this fade speed time divide by 60. Am I alright with that? No, that's not right, that's not right. Okay, okay, if fade speed is, wait, fade speed divide by 60, this should be right. Okay, fade speed, so this means fading time in, or fade time I should call this. Seconds. So this is how long it should take to fade in and fade out. So if I were to test now, this doesn't look smooth. No. This ain't it. I'm releasing it. I'm trying to show it, but it doesn't exactly do what I want, does it? As you can see, the fading is clearly slower than it was, but This isn't the effect that I wanted, to be honest with you. Okay. I feel like this time is wrong as well. No, I don't think it's quite right. What if I make it slower? What happens then? Let's take our times here. Let's see what happens now. No, this doesn't look right. This is even slower. That's wrong. Yeah, I know what I did wrong. So fade time. Let's see. It has to be. If this was our norm, actually, let's first see what happens if I change this back to 0.05. If it's already had that smoothing issue. So if I were to do this, make the animation really slow, what would happen then? Okay, guess it's already had that issue of not fading in, fading out properly. But yeah, this was kind of the idea what I'm going for, but not quite. And this is why I wanted to make this square too. I also want to make this square too. And I guess while I'm at it, I can move this to here and remove this piece of code to make the code a little bit shorter. What it had to be, and if I were to test now, will then work? No. That's not what I wanted, okay. Okay, I don't really get what's going on here. Exit. Yeah, I know why this isn't, I know partially why this isn't working, but I think I have to make this 0.5 then, if I am correct. I'm not too sure though, because I am not really thinking this through a lot, to be honest. And now it's not working at all, so that was the wrong call to make. And I know why. I know why. Wait, what yeah. I think if I do this, then it should work. If I do this, will then work, or do I have to put squared, or do I have to do a square root? Not so sure. I think square root is what I need, because that animation is not smooth at all. If I do square root, will then work. Yes, it was square root. Cool. Very smooth. Yes, there we go. That's what I wanted. Now let's do this. Let's make this fade time work. So, if we want to do, so normally we want X to go from 0 to 1 in 60 seconds, which means if our fade time would be, okay, plus 1 divided by 60 is what we normally want. But if we want this to go faster, then we want to decrease our, so we want to do 1 divided by 60. 60 times fade time, like so. If we duplicate this and put it here, I think this is what we were after. Now fade time should be 0.5 seconds. Let's test that out. No. That is wrong. That's very foolish of me, because this should be minus, first of all. This is good. Okay, I am going to leave it at this, where we have a smooth in and out animation. There we go. Alright, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream right now. I'm going to wait, I think, 30 more seconds to see if anyone's got any more questions about this third part of this tutorial series, or have a question about anything else. Feel free to ask right now, and after that I will end the stream shortly. That'll be it for part 3. Then once again I shall publish this script to the public, release it into the wilds, if you will. Let's see, save to ROBLOX. Override an existing asset. Tutorial timer. Submit. Copy this link. That works too. Open it in my browser. Yeah, that works too. Okay, I'm going to post here. This is our updated. How many parts are you planning on releasing? I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more parts. Because what I want to do for next time is I want to change the way the scripts keep track of the timer, because instead of the local script keeping track of our lap times, I want the server script to do that job. I will also want to see if I can make this work, if this is actually reliable, because this is also something I'm about to do for my Formula Roblox game as well. And the reason for that, if you have been in the Formula Rogues Discord, or if you have been playing Formula Roblox in the last week or so, you may know that we have a little issue called hackers, which have been using third-party software to actually basically add their own local scripts, which allows them to cheat lap times. And I can tell you right now that with this script, and also with the server script that I've got published, or I mean the West Timing System 3 model, that you can also cheat that system, and that is by writing your own. Let's see, when do we publish our time normally? Because what those scripts do is they execute this command, but then with an impossible lap time like 006 or something stupid like that. That's what they basically do. And I want to remove this thing, and I want to make the server keep track of the time so people can't exploit through here. But I'm actually not 100% sure if that is actually a reliable method. So I'm going to have to test it out on the server later, or for Formula Roblox soon, or maybe even in here in my own time. I'll first try it out here, and then later that I do it again, but then on stream, because that's what I'm playing for next week. Brandon is asking, will you possibly release some free tracks? No, I don't think I will, I'm sorry. Yeah, tracks are just too much of an effort to make, especially if you're just going to make them free and everything. Okay, anyway, unless anyone's got any questions, I'm going to end the stream right here and then. I would like to thank you everyone for watching. Thank you if you watched the entire stream, which means you either are bold or have a genuine interest in programming, which is awesome to know. And yeah, I don't know what else I have to say apart from thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more Roblox related videos, and I will see you for